Fun cushions. Everyone ready to have some fun cushions? Woo! And right off the bat, I'm not going to teach you anything. See if you can remember. Noteworthy though, you probably don't know about the quadrants. So this is how it makes up: quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. And it's also a cast. So go ahead and write this down. This is for next year. But there's also a cast system where cosine, sine, and tan are involved. But I want you in this graph to graph these points. And hopefully remember how to do so. Graph 4, 1, negative 1, 2, 3, negative 3 is O, A, 0, negative 2, and E is negative 2, 0. Quick reminder of maybe grade 5, I don't even know when we start graphing points on graphs. But we can't guess ever. Math and guessing do not work. Okay, it goes in alphabetical order. Your x coordinate is the first one you see. Your y coordinate is second, just like the alphabet x and y. You always start with the x first. You should always start alphabetical order from the origin, 0, 0. And then this is a roadmap to the house. If you're going to see Michelle, there you go, 4 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 up. Everyone, and then label that M, please. Check. Negative 1 is 1 to the left, 2 up. And 3, negative 3. Again, no guessing, please. It's 3 to the right, 3 down. And it should be there. Collaborate. Always just point. K, make sure you know the difference between these two. You're not guessing. Do not guess ever. You start at 0, and this tells you to go 0 to the right or left, and then 2 down. And then E says go 2 to the left right away, and then 0 up or down. And what's the code? For candy. Go. Correct. Go ahead and do the next question. Please. Don't ask me anything about quadrants. Try to guess. Take your best guess on example 1, please. So there. Again, this is good. You're just doing more. Remembering how to graph points. We're going to be graphing lines. We're going to be graphing quadratics. Maria, thank you. You have a hand up? Oh, thank you. That's fine. Good job. Don't get fooled. Put the graph carefully. Oh, never mind. I'm one step ahead of myself. Let's pray, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Pray for St. Family of St. Francis and anyone else who's lost a loved one. And people know that they're in heaven with angels and saints and Jesus and Mary, and that they have knowledge of heaven, and that comforts and heals their hearts. We pray for the Lord that you're out there. Anybody want to pray for anybody else they know or don't know? I think I'll pray for the time where we say SARS, and we dealt with it and it ended, and we haven't had to deal with it since. Let's pray that happens soon with COVID. It'll be an afterthought. We get back to our lovely lives. Amen. All right, correct the window. With these guys. Now you know that if something is on the X or Y axis, it's not part of a plane. Does that sound good, or did the answer key guy or gal make a mistake? They're pretty good, probably 96% of their answers are right. Right, just give us an answer key. We're good? Do you have any questions on plotting points? Just come see me at Math10AP, because you have to know how to do that. If you can't plot a point, you certainly can't draw a graph of one line or two lines or a parabola. Okay, next page is something I'm going to give you a better definition of continuous variables. I don't love that definition. So continuous variables can be measured by fractions and decimals. So if we're talking about long jump, and I jump, sprint my hardest, and I jump 1 foot after takeoff, just because I jumped one doesn't mean it's not continuous, aka discrete, because it could have been 1 decimal one if I had maybe flown with the wind a little bit. Hopefully you know this is ridiculous. I can jump harder than this after a sprint. However, well, maybe I trip and fall on my face. That'd be funny too. So it can be measured. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a decimal or a fraction answer. Usually it is, but I could jump 1 meter and that would still be continuous because it could have been 1.5. The other thing is called discrete, and these can only be measured in whole numbers. Okay, if you're cat lady, the number of cats you have, well, let's not use the word crazy too much. It could either be 8 or 9 or 10. There's no such thing as 8 and 2/5 of a cat. Don't even go there. There's no such thing. Okay. Let's try example 4. And if you're watching the Simpsons Halloween special. Tell me whether those are discrete or continuous. Very small concept. Not a lot of those questions, but if you have a couple, know the difference and don't guess. What the heck is this? Who's this Canadian sprinter on steroids? Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson. Bless you. You guys look like you're done ready? Okay, time for a sprint. Is that discrete or continuous, everyone? Continuous. It's almost always measured in probably thousandths of a second, maybe even 10 thousandths of a second. Number of students who get 100% in Math 10. Discrete is correct. Height of students. Continuous, what if you're 6 feet? Yeah, so what is it? What if you're 6 feet? Is it discrete or continuous? It's still continuous, because it could be 6'2". What's 6'2" is a decimal? What 6 or feeding without a calculator? Who knows what 1/6 equals? Love it. I gotta give you my card or something. Okay, good job. It's not so 6 feet 5 inches is not 6.5 because inches are in 12, right? So it's not 5/10, it's 5/12. Just throwing that at you. Shoe size. Luckily, I have a shoe size that I can get this easily, but you might not have a shoe size to get this easily. So think about it. Can it be written? Can it be measured in fractions, decimals? Everyone? Continuous. Good. Okay, let's talk Canadian track. Yep.
It would have to depend on which shoe size you're using, because if you use like European, it's the full marks.
Oh, really? Okay. Good comment. Never heard that before.
There are
Really tiny. So my size 18 in Europe, that'd be awesome.
It's like 40 something.
That makes it sound well. I like it. All right, I'm moving to Europe. You guys won't see me tomorrow. I'm tall in Europe. Canadian sprinters. There is an interesting story. I remember in the Olympics, Ben Johnson winning the gold medal, and we were so proud because that hadn't happened before. And then 2 or 3 days later, he got his gold medal stripped because he was on steroids. And then I want to talk to you about travel, but I want to do it properly, but a glimpse of travel anyway, as I went to the Atlanta Olympics in 1996 after I went to New Jersey in the exchange program. So we stayed with Leslie and her husband, who was a Georgia exchange student, and I went with Ryan, who was the Wisconsin exchange student. And it was awesome. We went to like 8 different events, watched handball and events I'd never even heard of before. It was awesome. Water polo, And we did go to one track. Oh, there's another story. Oh, gosh. Track. We went to one track, obviously not the finals or anything because they cost thousands of dollars. We went to one. I'll tell you the story, I have to. And I think it was over 5,000. I think it was the 10,000 meter. And the race went on. And there's this one competitor from a country I'd never even heard of. And no idea. Just make one up, Zakonia. Could have been. And she was getting crushed. Like, this is a 400 meter track, and everyone's passing her multiple times. And it turned out to be one of the best moments of my life. So what happened is literally everyone probably lapped her 7 times. And so what happened, now it kind of makes sense, but I wasn't even expecting this. But now she's on the track all by herself. She still has 7 laps remaining. And what do you think happened? The crowd went wild. The crowd, I mean, I almost got tears in my eye. We were just cheering her on so awesomely. It kind of reminds me of Special Olympic moments. That when she crossed the line, it was like she had won and broke the world record. Like, it was so awesome to be there. You know, luckily, I wasn't there 3 hours beforehand, or I would have been part of the bombing in Atlanta, because I walked right through that. If you guys saw one movie, what's it called? One movie with the bomber?
It's a lot of movies.
Fair enough. No, this was based on a true story. For the Atlanta Olympics, yeah, that's too bad to say. But anyways, yeah, I was 3 hours before the bomb went off. I was there, and my mom absolutely scared the heck out of me because she phoned me in Georgia at 3 in the morning. Like, I thought something happened in Saskatoon, but she was just checking to see if I was all right. And anyways, so that was my Atlanta Olympic track moment. But then I was in Atlanta for this 100 meter final, and Donovan Bailey was running, and he won the gold medal, and it was just awesome. I was also in New Jersey when the Blue Jays won the World Series for the first time, so I was so proud to be a Canadian. Funny story about Donovan Bailey is when I could just talk. I should just talk. I should have talked to him. No one would listen except for me. Anyways, Donovan Bailey, I was training for track like we did when we played football at university. We always went to track to get faster, especially the fast positions. And I was warming up, and one guy beside me said, "Hey, want to race?" I said, "No, thank you. I'm just warming up." I didn't look at him, and I did my acceleration. And then, as I walked back, I realized it was Donovan Bailey, the Olympic sprinter, gold medal. I could have beat him because he was just warming up. So I would have run my fastest, and he would have just walked, and I would have beat him by like an inch. And I could have always said that. But now I got to say the story of me ignoring Donovan Bailey and not beating him in the race, which I would have. I'm showing you this story. Who's our Canadian sprinter now? He's actually in a couple of GoDaddy commercials. Andre DeGrasse. Okay, he could be our next gold medal. He is very close to being the best sprinter in the world. Who was the best sprinter for the last 4 Olympics? Gold. So he's retired now and never lost. I don't think he lost a race. But this is his last race, his last gold medal against DeGrasse and others. And then we just hope so much that Andre wins the gold. Is it here? There we go. Okay, so let me get the volume on 100. I don't know if I want you at 100. Let's go here. And there's our Canadian. Lights off, please. And I don't have to show you who Bolt is. You will see who Bolt is. If I remember correctly, there's been a false start. So in track, there used to be, I might have your pauses so I can talk more. In track, you used to get 1 false start each. And it was getting ridiculous because everyone would try to get just the best possible start, and if they didn't get it, then they would just have a normal start. But there would be like 5 or 6 false starts. But now, if there's one false start, whoever false starts next is out. Exactly is your reaction. Like you trained for 4 years for this race. If you false start, you're out, and it has happened. That one, I remember one American sprinter crying on the track, and I would too. You train for 4 years, and the false start will get you out of it. Now, where's the volume? No volume. Why is there no volume? Oh, well. I know it's not volume. There's bolt. In the middle, straight, the grass at the end. Number 9. Oh, good number. But if any one of those guys would have false started, they would have been done. And Andre got bronze. Yay. So happy he got a medal. He's just started, I think he just started sprinting when he was like 17 or 18. His friends made him come out, and because his friends were on track, and he could beat them all. So, yeah, American second place, probably. Cool. And this is just a little lighter moment of teaching. And if the Olympics do go on, make sure you watch the sprints. Because Andre will be in the 100 and 200, and the Olympics are looking for a new champion. Because Bolt will not be racing. He was amazing. All right. That one. Oh, this is pretty funny. Or no. They had one replay where they tried to show a cameraman trying to catch him as he was. Maybe it's this one. As he was slowing down, and the cameraman was full speed, and he was like walking. These are medals. Look at that. Medals are decided by hundredths of a second. Crazy sport. I'm a sprinter, so it's kind of butterfly when right before it's the start, and you just hope you get a good start and you stay low. But if that excites you, come join our track team. Right? Ninth track will be soon. I was never good at relaxing at this point. You're supposed to relax. Your bubbles are supposed to be, your cheeks are supposed to be bouncing up and down, like so relaxed. But I was kind of always grimacing. Oh, I guess there's no. There's no mascot. I'll get the other one. Okay, so there we go. Discrete, continuous. Do this one, please. Toothpick question. And I want to brighten your day, so I'm going to try to find the mascot video. Oh, this isn't that. Oh, it's not mascot. It's what do you? I just saw someone use those things they wheel around on. What are those called? I need that name. What are those things called? Go back and forth. In Europe, big wheels, 2 wheels. What are they called? Electric things. No, not a scooter. You stand on it.
Oh, like the knockout vibes.
Maybe, but I don't know what you said.
Hoverboard?
Not hoverboard. Segway. Segway? Yeah, Segway. That was supposed to help me, and now I don't know how to spell Segway.
That's a. It's just
Mascot Video Olympics. mascot. Oh, here it is. This is, man, I laughed so hard when I saw this for the first time. Okay, this. Oh, come on, Tess, hurry up back. This is fucking. If you saw it, please don't say anything. But this. Here's all just one. And look at this. What a good mascot.
She's gonna fall.
This is true. Boom.
Oh.
I think I was laughing for a week and I was crying for a week. When I saw that. Oh boy. That was classic. Alright, let me find the other one. DeGrasse. Well, at least you're a mascot. At least your face is covered up. What is this? Segway? How do you spell Segway? Or whatever you said.
If you try to type it into Google, it'll give you the right spelling.
S-E-Y? Is that what we're guessing? Segway? S-E-G? Video? No. 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 Oh, well, that mascot one was better anyway. That was awesome. Okay, and if it rains, cancel. Whew. If it rains, make sure you do toothpick races. Who's done toothpick races after it rains? With toothpick races, see whose toothpick goes first down the drain? It is so much fun. What else are you going to do in the rain? Come on.
Literally get
down.
You missed it. Okay, here you go. Pay attention and make sure you got the equation. So can you have 2.5 triangles? Not really. Can you have 2.5 toothpicks? Yeah, you could. Don't forget to do this part. I've seen students did everything right and they forget the easiest part. So did you draw 2 diagrams, the next 2 diagrams, or did you just skip over it and go to the table? So make sure you answer all of these. Is discrete, if you put continuous toothpicks, I'm fine with that. You can have a half toothpick. But this is important and this is more important. And let's talk about F. If I have 5 times more money than Cain, what's the proper equation? If I have 5 times more money, you can guess. Is it the top or the bottom? Think about it and take your guess. You don't have to tell me, I'll tell you. Which one represents that I have 5 times more money? Well, I think your brain tells you this one because J has got a big number in front of it, but no. J needs 5 times his money to equal my money. So it's important that you know that the big number here is P. What's the big number? These are the big numbers. P is the big number. So you don't put T equals 2P plus 1, you put P equals 2T plus 1. Okay, you have to know what the big number is in the formula. So that's going to help you write the formulas properly and not mix up the variables. Okay, so the big number goes by itself. Even though I think my brain tells me that 5J means I have more money. That's not the case. That means Cain has more money. boy. I think I just went up 32 pages by doing that. Let's go back. Yeah, I sure did. 27 pages, 390. Come on, man. Now, what you need to know for the graphs is that discrete variables only have points because you can't join the lines, because when you join a line, that means 8.5 is part of the measurement. And continuous variables, write this down please, equals connect the dots. Means you connect the dots and draw a line. Because shoe sizes have every size in between, although that would be arguable because it would just be half sizes. So we'll just say, we'll talk about sprints. And if anybody here thinks you're faster than me, you're wrong. I will still kick your butt. We did the hills yesterday. What did you do yesterday for exercise? My daughters and I were doing Yep. Okay, so there's the formula, and please understand, when you get a question like this, you don't always just sub 27 into the formula and sub 83 to the formula, or you're going to get half of them wrong. When you get a question like that, you ask, is it P that equals 27 or T that equals 27? It says number of triangles. Go to your chart. The number of triangles P or T? And so this one is T equals 27. This one says toothpicks. So that this one is P equals, not 27, 83. So this one is harder, obviously. Just make sure you don't fall asleep and take the easy way out. You're going to get that last one wrong. And this one is just add or subtract first, grade 7 question. Subtract 1 on both sides first, and then divide by 2, divide by 2. You have to show me that work. You do have to remember how to solve equations. All right, do the next question, please. Volts. Usain Bolt. If you have any questions on this one, ask away. Probably explain it better. I apologize. So you guys, you got some that's right, but I certainly didn't look at all of you. Sorry. So let's go back to where you get this relationship. How do you get 3 from 1? Okay, so you multiply by 3. Does that work for 2 times 3? Does 2 times 3 equal 5? No, so that doesn't work. So what's the next way to get from 1 to 3? You add 2. If you add 2, do you get 5? No. So it's not the easy ones where you just multiply or add by numbers, so it's going to be 2 things. It's either going to be multiply by 2 and then add 1, or multiply by 3 and subtract 1. So now you got to investigate. So let's go multiply by 2 and add 1. Does that work? We multiply by 2 and add 1. Do we get 5? Okay, so all of a sudden, and add 1, we just found the relationship that works for all of them. Okay, so you go use the first number. How do you get from here to here? And then you see if it works with the other numbers. It might be a one-stepper, and it might just be multiplied by 5, but it might be something you have to multiply and then add, or multiply and then subtract. Try again with the next question. Sorry about that teaching there. How do you get from one number to the other number? An equation is going to work for the whole chart. So you're doing this one next. Next page. Here we go. You're in physics. Go, 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 go. And there's questions on the next page. When you're finding the equation for this chart, I wouldn't even worry about the decimals. I don't like working with decimals. Just use the whole number, and it'll be a lot easier. If you use every second number, you can see the relationship a lot easier. Good job, good job, good job. Okay, just a reminder, great job in the midterm, over an 80% average. However, if you didn't get what you wanted, you got 70 when you wanted 90, it's not a 20% difference, it's out of 10. So you got 7 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10. So there's only a 2% difference in the mark between 90 and 70. So believe in yourself, you'll ace the exam and ace this unit as well. Okay, so this is what I would look at. These numbers are easier to deal with these numbers. So if you see some whole numbers, maybe you deal with them first, and you should see the relationship. 3 times 12 equals 36. But don't just assume that's it. You still need to do, is a half of 12 6, and 1.5 times 12? Yes, it is. So it does work. You're drawing a line through it, so check your line, and because it's continuous. And then when it says use the graph, you don't show your work. Okay, if you show your work on this one, I can't give you marks if you didn't use the graph. So if you want to check it somewhere else. Don't show your work using the formula here. How do you do 2.5 amps? We got it. They show you right here. There's 2.5 amps. You go straight up, and then straight to the left to see how many volts it is. When it says use graph, it's with very few, probably the only time I'm going to say do not show your work. If it says use the formula, then you show your work. So you have to show me how you got it, because they ask you 2 different ways. Writes the equation. Again, you have to know whether it's V equals 12I or I equals 12V. The big one goes by itself. What's the big one in the chart? What's the big number in the chart? Is it I or V? You can see V is bigger than I in the chart. So that's the one that should be by itself when you write the formula. Next page for you, but same page here. If I use the equation, there it is. I'm not going to ask you F. Don't even worry about that one. It's just dividing. Okay. So homework is page 4 and 5. And a little bit of page 6. Let's go to page 6 to get on with our next couple topics. Right here. And you can see why this is such a large handout, because some of the questions, they have a whole graph in it, so some questions are just one whole page. It's actually not a long unit, it's just a lot of handouts. Okay, so we are here, and I wonder if I have that page. Oh, don't have that page. Bad teaching. Where is it? Should be on page 1, I think. Yeah, right here. Okay, so there's many ways of relaying information and showing the relationship between numbers. There's a table. Table turns into points. Points turn into graphs, with or without lines. Okay, you can do a mapping diagram or an arrow diagram. You don't have this. This is just showing you what that first part of the heading is. You can have an equation that gives you the graph, or the graph from the equation. There's lots of different ways to relay information, and we'll be looking at several. So back here. And we're going to talk about dependent variables and independent variables. One is x and one is y. So when you have an equation y equals 3x subtract 5, when you get x, you can calculate y. So y is dependent on x. You can put x equals 5, x equals -1, x is x. Whatever number it is, x is independent, and then we need x to calculate y in this equation, if we're not talking about solving, bringing things from one side to the other. So the dependent variable is y. It's dependent on the value of x to calculate it. But it might not always be y. It might be d equals vt. So d, the number, the variable by itself, is the dependent variable. Dependent variables give you the outputs, and just underline those words. Independent for x gives you the inputs. The inputs, outputs is really something no one gets wrong. And of course, you need to know where your x and y is. When you have an ordered pair, your x comes first, your y comes second. Domain and range. Well, domain is the x. Let's put it here. Domain is the x. I don't even know why. Which goes on this side. Range is the y, which goes on this side. It's just because y is first. Usually it's alphabetical left, y. So it's domain is here with the x. Okay? Inputs, independent, x, domain. Those are all related. And dependent variable is the range. Range means y, which means dependent, which means outputs. The domain is also how far the graph goes right to left, which is how wide it is. If you want to put domain equals the width, that helps you, that's fine. in the range equals how far up and down, or how high it is, so the height of the graph. I don't think we can do this on our own yet. I think I'll ignore my lesson plans. Well, maybe we can. Let's take a quick guess on how you would answer these questions for A. You need to answer all 4 of these. Now, again, if it doesn't have X and Y, just assume it's in alphabetical order, and the first one's X and the second one's Y. Also know that if it says variable, your answer should be a letter. If it says what's the independent variable, your answer should not be 1/2 or pi, because those are not variables. Those are numbers. Y is the dependent, X is the independent. Take your best guess. I haven't even showed you how to write it yet. But independent variable equals what? X is true, but this one doesn't have an X. It has a P and a Q. What is it? P. Good. What's the dependent variable? The half my nickname, the other one. So don't put X and Y if there is no X and Y, because that's wrong. You have to deal with the variables they give you. What's the input? Do the inputs go with the X or the Y? Again, I don't think I've had hardly any trouble with this in 20 years. Inputs, outputs, inputs, outputs, inputs, outputs. These are the inputs, these are the outputs. Okay, when you plug in X in the formula, calculate it, 2x plus 5, there's your output. Okay, so the inputs are 5, 8, and 11. That's right on with squiggly brackets. And the outputs are the Y's, or the Q's, 10 and 16. If there was 2 16s, you wouldn't put 2 16s, you just put 1 16. Just put a 1. All right, do B and C. For these. Best guess. If you're doing a lot of classwork, just doing a lot of stuff today. Best guess, you get it wrong, who cares? Ask me questions you don't understand. And now we did A, you can do B. B should be a lot easier than A. You should have the proper notation. Okay, B. What's the independent variable? Is it V or A? Is it X or Y? The only problem is if you put X and Y there, you might put X and Y for the answer, so don't put X and Y for the answer. Yep. Sorry, you're right. I did say alphabetical order. I meant the X and Y, so the first is X, the second is Y. That's what I meant by that. Not that go A before V. So that's my fault. But no, the first one assume is your X, your second one assume is your Y. Assume that your first, the left chart is the X values and the Y, the right hand side are the Y values. Okay, so having said that, what's the independent variable? Is it V or A? V, okay, so that means A is dependent. And what are the inputs? The inputs are the X values, so 4, 10, and 25. And the outputs are 12 and 15. You don't put 15 twice. Put 15 in twice, just cross it out. You only need to put it once. Because you're saying 15 is a value of Y. You don't need to say 15 is also a value of Y. Just have to say it once. All right, then we'll go in the same order. What's independent for this one? Independent, hopefully you guys are thinking X. Independent, you're thinking Y. Now, how do you do the inputs? Oops, I missed my N. There's the inputs. Those are all the X values, so ordered pairs show your X first, so 3, 4, 5, 6. And your outputs are 7, 11. Check, check. All right, stop talking so much and do the next one. Take your best guess on these guys. Don't ask me. Try to figure them out on your own, so you'll learn them better, whether you get them right or wrong. Funny thing is, when you try things, you remember them better. Take your best guess. Sorry, I thought I was going to arrest you or something.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, with the graphs, they're not as hard as you think they are. Just think about what's your X and Y axis on the graph, and then you'll get the independent and dependent variable quickly. Okay, so don't guess on the graphs. Whatever your X axis is, the one that goes left to right, that's your X axis. That is your independent variable. Oh, tricky though. Now, how do you do this one? Thanks for taking your best guess. Well, look at the top left button on your calculator. What does it say? Y equals. So if you have a P equals or D equals or T equals, you can assume that's the dependent or the independent variable. as the dependent variable. Okay, because you're getting a equation where C is based on calculating. If I give you R, then I can calculate C. Okay, so C is dependent. And which one is independent? R. Okay, good. So don't put 2 pi R. Independent variable means letter. Put that away, please. Thank you. So R is independent. If you put 2 pi R or pi R, I won't give you any marks. It's just R. R is the variable. And then, like I said, if you have a graph, just assume that this is the x-axis and that's the y-axis. So now your independent variable is what? But again, if you do that, don't put x and y because I give you 0 if you put x or y here. What's the independent variable? Better time. What's that? Good. And what's the dependent variable? And then this one says S is dependent. So S is the dependent variable. S dependent and T is independent. Has anyone ever had maple syrup from a tree? Really? But like, you actually at the tree part? Okay. I have a story about maple syrup too. Homework. Same up to page 8. So you got pages 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 homework. Again, that sounds like a lot, but one question is basically 1 page. And we're going to continue with actually, never mind. I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll give you 4 minutes, and then we're still going to do 1 question, but of course there'll be no homework on it, and we probably won't even get to the whole question. So take 4 minutes and just start something. So I know the hardest thing to do is get homework started, or essay started, or start studying for the midterm. Anybody have any questions on what we did today? Anything? If you do, ask Josh. Okay?
Do you staple my book together?
Yep. We'll try it. First one. Oh, that's all you want?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. don't worry, you guys don't worry. You need Give me another couple minutes of homework. Or pretend to be doing it. Probably graphing lines and probably talking about x-y intercepts. I know domain and ranges first. Yeah. Tricky question. Oh, did I don't. I think it's still recording. Thanks, guys. Sorry, podcast people. You've been all laughing at me. I just wanted you to wait and think about how thankful we are for all the things that God have done for us, the gift of time and silence and peace. God bless us today.